we've got Femi Femo here with us. It was a birthday yesterday. Bless you always, Femi.
Amen. Good morning, Rufai. Thank you for the gift. Ayo, thank you for the gift as well. Good morning, Rufai.
Spirits.
No, you guys have done well. I hear our producer here saying that he prayed for me. That's also a gift. Thank you for all of the gifts. A very good morning to you, viewers. Let me tell you what is happening. Don't mind him. He said he prayed.
His name is Musa.
Very good morning to you, viewers. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Well, let us begin in Mali, where a 22-year-old TikToker from the Timbuktu region, Mariam Cissé is her name. She was abducted while live streaming at a market in Tonka, which is in the north of Mali, and she was then publicly executed in the town's Independence Square the following day. Now, armed men believed to be jihadists from the Al-Qaeda-linked group JNIM accused her of informing the Malian army of their movements after she posted videos in a military uniform with the caption, "Vive Mali," long live Mali. Now, the killing has sent shockwaves throughout the country, where fuel blockades by the same insurgents have shut down schools, halted university exams, and have left the capital, Bamako, facing severe shortages. Meanwhile, the African Union has expressed deep concern over the deteriorating security and humanitarian crisis unfolding there, urging the junta to protect civilians. Well, let's move on to Asia now. Tensions between Pakistan and India, they're continuing to build after a suicide bomber detonated outside Islamabad's district court, killing at least 12 people and injuring at least 27 others. Now, the Interior Minister, Mohsin Naqvi, said that the attacker tried to enter the courthouse but set off the device near a police vehicle, adding that authorities will prioritize identifying the bomber and bringing those responsible to justice. Now, Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif, alleged that extremist groups actively backed by India were involved. This is a claim denied by India as baseless. Now, a splinter faction of the Pakistani Taliban, they're called Jamaat al-Ahrar, they claimed responsibility for this attack, though the Taliban's central leadership denied any link. Now, you'll remember we reported on the deadly car explosion which took place in Delhi in India, and that is yet to be attributed to any one person for responsibility, but it does give another example of the tensions between these countries. Now, staying in Asia, there is this fragile peace deal between Thailand and Cambodia. Now, it was, of course, previously heralded by US President Donald Trump, but it has now been suspended by Thailand after Thai soldiers were injured by landmines. Now, Cambodia earlier this week denied laying any landmines or any new landmines along this 500-mile frontier, this border between these neighboring countries, of course, Thailand and Cambodia. Now, their ceasefire agreement, which it's called the Kuala Lumpur Accord, was brokered with the help of US and with the United States and Malaysia after Trump in July threatened that he would hit both countries with heavy tariffs if their deadly conflict continued. It was one of 8 conflicts that Trump has claimed credit for resolving during his second term. So we'll see what's happening there. Before I come to my colleagues for their thoughts on the World Brief, let's take a look at newspaper headlines today. As ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. And This Day does lead with the Central Bank Governor Olayemi Cardoso saying that Nigeria's economy belongs to us all. And he goes on to urge collective effort to perfect and protect reform gains. Now, he was speaking in Abuja and he stressed price stability, boosting local production and expanding GDP. Now, the Minister of State for Finance, Doris Uzoka Anite, did confirm coordinated monetary and fiscal policies, and Cardoso himself vowed that personal influence will no longer be needed for transactions at the central bank. Well, let's move on to the New Telegraph this morning. And it does lead with news that the federal government has confirmed that it has established open channels of communication with the United States, with Trump himself. This is, of course, following Trump's recent remarks about possible military action over these targeted killings of Christians in Nigeria. Now, the Information Minister, Mohammed Idris, did tell a press briefing that the two sides are talking and that dialogue is beginning to yield positive results. Moving on to the Vanguard. The Vanguard does, again, wade in on this issue, but the paper also reports that there was a heated confrontation between the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and some soldiers, including one named A.M. Yerima, over an alleged case of land grabbing at Gadua district in Abuja. Now, the disputed land plot called 1946 is said to be linked to former Chief of Naval Staff Vice Admiral Awal Zubairu Gambo. Now, Wike condemned the use of soldiers to intimidate government officials and insisted that no one is above the law and vowed that illegality would not be tolerated under his watch. But perhaps some people may well argue that it is the minister himself who could be accused of doing the intimidating. We'll get into that, I'm sure, later on in the show. Moving on to the Daily Sun this morning. The Daily Sun has the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Waidi Shaibu, saying that the Nigerian army remains committed to defending Nigeria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives have actually raised the alarm over 1,894 illegal border entry points, warning that human trafficking, arms smuggling, and other crimes threaten Nigeria's national security. Let's move on to The Punch. The Punch today does report on the House of Representatives temporarily shutting down amid tensions over budget. Now, this session happened on Tuesday. There was some sort of a heated showdown over the 2026 budget and a protest by indigenous contractors who have been demanding payment for work done under the 2024 to 2025 budgets. Now, lawmakers refused to continue until the Finance Ministry settled the outstanding debts, issuing a 7-day ultimatum to the Minister of Finance and the Accountant General to clear the arrears. Now, the tension into the chamber, it did spill into it, prompting a closed-door meeting that lasted about an hour. When the session did resume, the Speaker called for an immediate adjournment, and the House stepped down all items on the order paper, leaving budget deliberations in limbo. Let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper today. Now, the Leadership does report on Nigeria and the United States and the United Kingdom joining forces in a joint investigation into a 338 billion naira cocaine haul which was seized at the Lagos port. It's this story just across the top there. Now, it's been described as one of the country's largest drug busts in recent years, with investigators from all three nations working to trace the cartel behind the shipment. Let's take a look at The Guardian this morning. The Guardian this morning, of course, has the PDP on there and whatever they're going at. But what we're going to talk about is NAFTAC, actually. It is this story just to the bottom here. So NAFTAC has announced a total ban on the production and sale of alcoholic drinks in sachets and bottles smaller than 200 millilitres, those really tiny ones. So that starts next month. Now, the Director General of NAFTAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, said that the move targets alcohol abuse amongst minors and commercial drivers, warning that no extension would be allowed. Now, this ban does follow a Senate directive amid rising concerns over health risks, road accidents, and social vices linked to cheap, high alcohol content drinks. Now, Daily Trust today, of course, leads with PDP, but again, one story that jumps out is just along the bottom here, and it says that tension is rising. Now, the Super Eagles, Nigeria's national football team, their camp is under some form of disarray. There's just 48 hours to go until their World Cup playoff. The players have boycotted training over unpaid bonuses and allowances. Now, the standoff now threatens Nigeria's readiness for the all-important qualifier. It is believed now that there is definitely conversations happening in the background. It is believed that the national team will train at some point today. And about this issue to do with special payments, it is something that is definitely been working on, we hear. I know that Ebby will bring us up to date, but as a football fan, we're hoping that, minds will focus on the game at hand. Let's move on now to the Daily Nation of Kenya, though. The Daily Nation of Kenya is talking about it really might have the Midas touch. Apparently, they're on the verge of a major gold boom after a British firm, Shanta Gold, discovered massive deposits worth about 680 billion Kenyan shillings in Kakamega County. The paper says that the company plans to invest 72 billion shillings to begin mining operations in Isulu and Bushangala, where processing facilities will be built. Now, it adds that while the project could boost local economies and create jobs, it may also displace about 800 households across these 300 acres of land. To the UK now, let's take a look at some UK papers. And we've got this very interesting interesting story. The Metro pictures a woman jailed on Tuesday after the United Kingdom's highest ever value money laundering investigation. The newspaper says that Zimin Kian, who was the criminal mastermind behind a £5.5 billion cryptocurrency scam, she's been sentenced to 11 years and 8 months in prison. We did have also the Daily Mail, I believe it was. We're looking at job cuts and about how more than 1,000 jobs are being lost every year. We go 1,000 jobs were being lost a day, now lost under Reeves. So a lot of pressure piling on the Chancellor over in the United Kingdom as it's piling on Sir Keir Starmer himself. There is reports that we're seeing that perhaps members of the Labour Party don't think that he should lead them into the next election. So those are your well-briefed stories and your newspaper headlines. Love to hear your thoughts.
So a couple of things. So I think we should be able to probe the NFF now. And it should go back to the last administration of the NFF. Where is the money? So bad that players have not been paid for in 6 years. And when the players now say they're not going to go on training, you will blackmail them by saying they're not patriotic. But does it make sense? You see, that's the madness. You see, I was quoting Masmoro earlier that the country that loses privilege and virtue definitely will go down. And that's what's happening to Nigeria. So every sector is a loss of privilege and virtue. And that's what you're seeing. So please, they should probe even the past administration of the NFF, those in charge, where the money is, they should bring them out. We are still talking about the FIFA stadium. We've not gotten to the root of that matter. They should bring all of these things out. Real quickly. I'll merge the Cambodia story and the Pakistani story together.
Okay.
These are some of the two peace accords Trump bragged about. It's already in the mud. As regards Cambodia and Thailand, what happened, this goes back to 1907, the Franco-Siamese agreement about a certain Hindu temple in Panelville. What happened was that Cambodia took possession of it, and when they took possession of it, they started claiming it, and it was also ratified by international agencies. But Thailand keeps also fighting for it, so there are also skirmishes around this area. Recently, there was a landmine attack around this area, and it has also nullified the peace Trump claimed he made there. For the Pakistani case, it's still about two countries fighting for a certain area, Kashmir. This has been on for a while. But in this case, this Islamabad bombing is different. It's unlike the case you used to have in the past. If you remember 2008, when you had Lashkar-e-Taiba bomb India and the likes, this particular group, the TTP, is a group that's also fighting for independent secession of the Khyber region from Islamabad. They want to bring in Islamic laws, Sharia laws, and take over that region away from Islamabad. And they have been constantly attacking anything in the Pakistani infrastructure. So Pakistan now trying to lie that it has to do with India. It is not an Indian group. It's got nothing to do with India.
Yes.
This group is fighting internally because they also want to take away a particular region. But you know, because if you're having a fight with somebody, if anything happens to you, say, oh, it's the other person.
Yes.
And that's why they were so quick to blame India. Not to say that there are not groups also backed up by India. They've both had their skirmishes recently. But this group has been fighting for a while. And how they can settle it will help them. Coming back to Mali, what happened was that after the coup in Mali, I think the coup around 2011, 2012 that removed Amani Touré, then you had a free flow of insurgents. And also that coincided with what was happening in Libya then. Then you had a free flow of insurgents. The French tried to clear up that area when the Tuareg rebels came in, but they couldn't clear it up. They set up something called Operation Bakan, Operation Seville at first. Then they set up Operation Vacan, where they brought in the Dosso fighters. François Hollande was leader then. But the French have also pulled out, so that area is really ungoverned. So this TikToker making a video, they felt, was supporting the government, was telling them their positions. That's why they went ahead to kill her. But despite the fact that Assimi Goïta came in on the heels of fighting the Tuareg rebels, he's not been able to stop the incursion. So Mali is a basket case, just like all other African countries in the Sahel African region. I yield the floor.
All right. So Mali is considered the epicenter of jihadist operation in the Sahel because of how the pervasiveness of their intrusion, especially under the military government in Mali. this TikToker execution, it is gory. I mean, they arrested her, abducted her during a live, live stream on her TikTok, where she was speaking in support of the military. She's known to also sometimes wear military gear, and she was just speaking about that. And the accusation is that she was filming the jihadists to give information or intel to the military. And we know that the jihadists have, for a very long time, had that, conflict with the military, especially for resource and territory control in Mali. Now, what this highlights is the brazenness and perhaps even more control that they've had. There are two main terrorist groups in Mali, one affiliated to Al-Qaeda, the other affiliated to ISIS. I mean, both of them, operation style quite similar, and also, of course, like I mentioned, this aim for resource and territorial control. What has happened is that consistently they have now been attacking civilians, and this killing of the TikToker is another show or display of that. It looks like the Malian coup that happened in 2021 that came on the back of addressing pervasive insecurity and terrorism in Mali isn't working. They are not able to contain the problem. In fact, it looks like the problem is getting more. Yeah. Right now, there's a fuel shortage based on the fact that these groups have blocked, JNIM has blocked oil coming from Senegal, neighboring countries like that. They have stopped economic activity to a very large extent in the group. They have they've stopped humanitarian support from other parts of the world, and so it looks like there's a problem. And the concern about this is that this might spiral to other southern states along the coastal border with Mali, and that this issue around terrorism, jihadists, must be tackled not just by one country, but by a coalition and a coming together and a working together by the Sahel to ensure that they defeat this issue. So you can see that whether it be under a civilian government or a military government, they've not been able to contain this terrorist group. And it's quite sad to see that this has happened. And I mean, I don't know if there'll be any consequence for that. He also talks about the power of social media. Yesterday, we were talking about what's happening in South Africa with the trial of Jacob Zuma's daughter. And based on her incitement for treason and terrorism and disruption of public peace is based on her social media posts. It shows that social media is powerful, and then also the dangers of what some people use their powerful platforms of social media in eras where free speech is not guaranteed, and this is jungle justice at its finest. Now, going on to the Vanguard newspaper, there's a story I would like to highlight, and that is efforts made by the Aviation and Aerospace Development Ministry. It's been announced earlier today that Keyamo, who's the minister there, you can see the story just at the bottom of the picture. We've approved duty-free importation for aircraft and spare parts. I highlight this because a number of times we've been talking about how we can make that industry, that sector more efficient and bring down the prices or the cost of ticket prices. Now, if this is done, what this means is that Keyamo's commitment to local operators is justified with this move. Then number two is that by saving money, by ensuring that they're not having to send, pay duty on these aircraft and spare parts, it could hopefully then translate to them being able to reduce the prices of tickets. And we'll be watching to see the efforts made by this ministry to see how it would affect the aviation industry in Nigeria. But I think it's a good move, and I think we should highlight the story, especially when government agents are working for the benefits of the people.
Thank you, Ayo.
Right. Oh, quickly go to Mali, because for me, I think what stands out with Mali, as does with all nations of the Alliance des États du Sahel, the AES, is the fact that parallel to the insurgency, there's a huge disinformation, or rather war of information, because depending on the source you go to, you get completely different accounts of what is transpiring in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. However, what we can all agree on, from Reuters to the local media in Mali, is that, the schools have reopened. They reopened yesterday, and that what was said to be an encroaching into Bamako from insurgents has been pushed off by the army of Mali to such an extent that today there's even a Turkish government delegation that's being hosted in Bamako. They're having a conference on international defense strategies. So I think it's always important to remember that yes, there is a conversation around conspiracy, but there's also the very real fact that many of these conflicts are very much proxy driven. Many of these conflicts are in the direct complicit action of neighboring countries. For example, in this instance in Mali, we see that one of the biggest challenges is coming from the north with the Tuareg rebels, and the allegation is that they're hugely supported by Algeria. What else do you have happening in Mali? You have Ukrainian soldiers who are being trained in Mali. Ukrainian officials have even affirmed that. So you have several international players who are all coming together to make this situation much more exacerbated than it needs to be. General Assimi Goïta seems to be doing his best, but it just goes to show you that once you have international interference, it adds to the complexity of insurgency. Now, I'll close very quickly on CBN and the commitment to deepen reforms. And, you know, it made me think of a book I'm currently reading, which is called Can't We Just Print More Money? This is a publication from the Bank of England. And, you know, in the foreword, the governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, talks about how they've decided to take reform to the people. This is in direct response to the fact that the newspaper headline that 1,000 jobs are being lost per day.
Daily Mail. You're right.
In the UK. And now what the Bank of England does is the Bank of England has decided to go to schools. They've decided to do town halls directly with the people so that people can get a better understanding of what economic reform means and what the government is trying to achieve. And I think in this instance, it's very important for us to try and see how we can adopt this message, because a lot of these macroeconomic indices, a lot of these conversations, they've gone way over a lot of people's heads. All people know is that they can feel the pinch in their pocket. There have been some positive reforms. However, if people don't understand them, you're never going to get their buy-in. And you're also not going to be able to buy the patience required, or rather the patience that the government is appealing to the people to have in order for them to buy into these reforms while we wait for things to turn around. Because unfortunately, we're here now. We're stuck in this situation for the next 2 years.
Yes.
So what will need to be done is to just get public buy-in and patience until the elections come to endure this process. But Adefemi Akinsanya, thank you so much for your robust take on the World Brief and newspaper review.